Oh yeah.
下がってなさい。どういうことだよラース。消えねえんだよ。俺の頭ん中でガンガンうるせえんだよ。なんでお前がキングブラッドレーが出てくるんだ。お前俺のもんに何をした。
Oh. Look at the animation here. Wow. Oh. Just wow. Yeah, he was gonna do it. As expected. Now.
奥様もセリム様もご無事ですか。
父上。
Hey.
隠居なされ。
Strong beard.
久しぶりに家に寄ったと思えばいきなり何を言い出すの。
家督を私に譲り、余生をゆっくり過ごされよと言っておるのです。私に全てを譲り、外国でゆっくりバカンスなどいかがですか。アレックスなどではアームストロング家の名に泥を塗るだけです。
オリビエと戦え。はあ、勝った方に家督を譲る。それでよいか。
Simple enough.
はい。
で、どこに行こうかね、バカンス。
シンはいかがかしら、あなた。食べ物が美味しいと聞いていますわ。待ったなし。
Now, they get a chance to talk.
決まりだな。
それを見た結果、父上たちが人質に取られるよう国が言い出したのですか。
Yeah.
敗者は去れ。
He caught on.
この館は私のものだ。
Be gone, loser. How lonely.
お嬢ちゃん、どこ行くんだい。ここは東の果ての町だ。この先には砂漠しかねえぞ。
これから国に帰ろうかと。
女の子一人で砂漠を越えるのか。
She's done it before.
半端だ。食い物でも何でも出してやれ。
そんな。
遠慮すんなって。
一晩泊まって明日出発したらどうだい。うちでお風呂入っていきなよ。
お腹空いてねえか。
いいやつらだね。見捨てるのか。ま、それもいいけどね。ただしこんな死に損ないのホムンクルスを持ち帰ったところで何の役にも立たないと思うよ。でもセントラルに行けば
Of course, gotta give it a shot.
不死の法を知ることができるよ。ここの連中も助けられるかもね。これから国に帰るお前には関係ない話だもんね。
Let's see, let's see.
ここありがとうございます。どこ行くんだい。やり残したことがあるので。
Oh boy. Yeah.
バカめ。セントラルに行ってくれればこっちのもんだ。
Still at it.
賢者の意志さえあればまた変身できる。意志さえあれば。
If only, eh?
Fullmetal Alchemist.
Whoa.
Fullmetal Alchemist.
Mustang's Jeep?
ここは。
以前使ったことのある隠れ家だ。
ここに弟がいるんだな。
ああ、俺には手に取るようにわかるぜ。あるなら必ずここに。
おい、誰もいねえじゃないか。北から必死こいて逃げてきてこれかよ。
They'll get something out of this. Barely got out of there, huh?
いや、クリードか。
Oh.
あら。
That's Lynn.
リンダ。
The reunion. I mean, that might be all the rations they have.
人心地ついた。ありがとう、ごっささん。
非常食が空っぽだ。
そちらさんはお仲間さん。ゴリさんと。
That voice acting.
ハインケルだ。元軍人だが訳ありで このガキと一緒に行動している。
こいつ何者だ。
That's the guy.
なんて説明したらいいか。
ホムンクルスだよ。
ホム
おいおい、そんな軽く。
ちょっと
マ
待って。
ジか。
グリードのやつがホムンクルス組と縁を切ってな。その時の動揺に乗じて体の主導権を取り返した。セントラル近くで隠れられる場所を探してここに。
He had the same idea.
どうした？
まずい。グリードが出てくる。
This should be fascinating.
おい、待て待て待て。
Hold on.
負けるな。意識を止めて。
セントラルの地下にいるあのお父様とやらが来たるべきその日に扉を開ける。俺の素人考えだが、そこにお前たち兄弟が飛び込めば二人とも元の体に戻れんじゃないか。
扉を開けるには通行料が必要で。あいつ何のために扉開けるんだ。来たるべきその日って扉開けるのに決まった日があんのか。
それは
おい。
That's all he's gonna get for now.
また出てくるな。すまない。ここまで。
But this should be fascinating now that Greed has separated, right?
グリードか。
ああ、そうだよ。やめとけ。そいつじゃ俺はやれねえよ。邪魔したな。ホムンクルスと手を切ったって。俺は記憶が混乱してブラッドレーを襲撃しちまった。戻ったって何をされるかわかんねえ。だからこのままとんずらぶっこいて気ままに生きていくさ。一人でな。
By yourself? Maybe you
仲
could.
間にならねえか。行くとこないなら一緒に来いよ。
A new family.
仲間ね。
Look how much older he looks.
そりゃお前が俺の手下になるってならつるんでやってもいいけどな。
Give it some time. Give it some time.
俺の中にはこんなに魂がたくさんあるのには一人なんだよな。
だったらエドたちと仲間になればいいだろう。それが嫌なら俺にこの体を返せ。俺が真の皇帝になってその虚しさを埋めてやるよ。
Enticing.
ガキが小さい小さい。
There's always something more.
世界の王になるってのはどうだ。
世界の
Yeah. Someone else might have that
なあ、
goal.
もうどっちでもいいや。めんどくせえから。あ、グリリン。
誰が
手下になってやるよ。グリリン。
はあ。
俺様がお前の手下になるっつってんだよ。
Hey.
行こう。俺にくっついてるこのキメラなおっさんた
This
ち
is
も
an approach.
お前の手下。
何勝手に決めてんだ。調子に乗るな。
感情に任せてチャンスと情報を失うわけにはいかねえだろ。千載一遇のチャンスをよ。
愚かだな。そうやって劇場に任せて貴重な情報を失うか。俺の部下になるってことは日陰者だぞ。後悔すんなよ。
なめんな。後悔することに関しちゃいい加減持ちだぜ。
なんだそりゃ。
お前ら何の君だ。
Ah.
ゴリラだ。
ライオン。かっこいいじゃねえ。
Oh.
預かりっぱなしだ。来たるべきその日。
Yeah. How about this?
すいません。今軍の奴らが来てたもんで。
Meet day.
ええ、アルフォンス君とホーエンハイムって人から伝言がありますよ。
約束の日か。
Oh, information. It's getting around.
一名何者だ。おい、何者だと聞いてる。ポイント B 何者だ。
主婦だ。
How cool.
謎の女による山岳警備兵襲撃。
They've kind of had that before.
20年ほど前の事件と同じだな。
アームストロング少将が帰ったら殺されますな。
I think she'll like Azumi Sensei.
ご苦労。
She got herself
黒
inside.
メガネ、反り込みシュバール系とモヒカン巨漢の軍人さん。話に聞いた通りだわ。だから通りすがりの主婦ですよ。
But let's get
あ
the
るから
message,
の
right?
伝言を持ってきたね。
約束の日だそうです。
おお、約束の日。それはちょうどいい。面白くなってきた
And
ね。
he'll be able to get it to Mustang, maybe? Hopefully.
やっほー、レベッカちゃん。
Rebecca?
相変わらずいい腕ね、相変わらずいいお尻。
Oh, okay.
クラムン中長、何してるんですか。
ホークアイ注意と仲いいよね。
Ah, love this.
やっほい、リーザー。
Men have to get a handful of booty as well at the same time, huh?
私にもセントラルのいい男紹介してよ。はい、いいよ。ハボック少尉にくれぐれもよろしく。了解。またね。
Ah, look at this.
ハボック少尉にくれぐれもよろしくか。大佐が来たらよろしく言っておいて。
へい。ですってさ、大佐。
Ah.
何も隠れることないのに。
That's how he gets the
お互い
information.
監視されてる身だからな。
Love that sequence.
年を越して来春。約束のその日。
Okay,
北も
specifics.
東も動く。
Bit of a check-in, essentially. Ah. Oh. Interesting. Love that. Whoa. Oh, gluttony. And sloth. And the emotionless father. Ominous. Oh, now I get the title. How cool. And I say ominous because, you know, that angle and kind of focusing on that light kind of reminded me of, or that lamppost reminded me of Pride in King Bradley or Wrath in the courtyard. Okay, so episode 45, The Promised Day. How cool. How cool is that approach, that presentation to give us that title card right at the end? And it is some build-up, isn't it? Fantastic build-up. And even the scene, you know, the final scene before it does go into the credits and gives us some more crucial information in terms of the direction of these final 19 episodes, or maybe even the next episode. But, you know, I'll get to that. But the montage, it's one of the most special moments of the series. It is. It really is. You know, to see the impact that Ed and Al have had on all of these people, right? The hope, or the beacon of hope that are these two brothers, and the people they've impacted and touched on their journey. It was beautiful to see. But, you know, beyond that, it's a beautiful depiction of all the connections and bonds that have been made, right? Even beyond Ed and Al playing a part. It was just beautiful to see. It really was. Of course, you know, there's a bit of comedic element to it as well, in terms of how the information is kind of being passed on. I mean, there are moments like Grumman kind of engaging in casual sexual harassment. I suppose he has a reputation to, you know, hold up, and that facade that he needs to keep up. You know, that eccentric man that he's meant to be. You know, he's older, and, you know, there's that trope of creepy older men. But yeah, a little tap on the bum. You know, it's entirely possible. Even though it didn't look like it, it's possible maybe he slipped it into her back pocket. But, you know, to me, it just looked like a tap, you know, just a check-in as well. So I don't know. But ultimately, he gets the message to Rebecca, who gets it to Riza Hawkeye, who gets it to Havoc. And, you know, because of that meetup, it gets to Mustang, Roy Mustang, who's kind of been on the sidelines for a solid chunk of episodes at this point. So I'm ready. I'm ready and excited to see Roy Mustang back in it, right? In the limelight. It was such a cool moment. And if you go even further back, right? You've got Fallman, then you've got Izumi Sensei getting herself, caught on purpose so she can actually land herself inside of Briggs and then come across the two gentlemen that are described to her in, specific detail. And then even before that, you've got their guy at the meat shop who gets it straight from Hohenheim and Alphonse. So I suppose they showed up in Doubleth, right? At this point of the series, there's perhaps a bit of fast traveling at play as well, right? It's getting to that stage now. I mean, Jesus, it's getting to that stage. You really get a feeling of that, or for that in this episode, or especially by the end of this episode. It certainly had that feeling of light the beacons. It's approaching soon enough, right? In the new year, in the spring, the promised day. And, if you go to the credit scene, the post-credit scene, or actually the credit scene, because they did have the ending song, but they also had these check-ins, these updates. And the thing is, those are actually really quite important, because they do tell you quite a bit about the next part of this story. But yeah, essentially, there's a lot of setup here for a potential time skip, right? They've given us specifics now in terms of the promised day, in the new year, in the spring, right? So just that setup alone, and, someone like Ed saying, oh, it looks like I'm not going to be seeing Wenry and Al anytime soon. All of these things kind of adding up and then showing us those catch up and setup moments in the credit scene, ending credit scene. Yeah, it looks like, it is going to require a bit of a time skip to get to that point, essentially. And I think it does a great job of actually kind of, depicting that to the audience and kind of selling that to the audience. But yeah, in terms of a few standout moments, Marco and Scar in the desert. Ooh, interesting. So, are they heading towards Xerxes, the ruins of Xerxes? This is something that he said requires Marco's help. Now, also, I know that Xerxes, or the ruins of Xerxes, does have a lot of Ishwalans, right? If you go back, I don't know, 10, 15 episodes at this point, around the time they are trying to get Maria Ross out of there, Ed is present, and yeah, the Ishwalans do come out. So maybe Scar's thinking, listen, if I can get some backup, if I can get some help, maybe he can get more Ishwalans to join up the cause, right? And fill them in terms of his own experiences, coming across people like Miles and the things he's trying to do, right? And then recently they kind of really show us Scar's shift, right? In his approach as well. He said that he wanted to change the country. So yeah, perhaps he'll do his job in selling it to others and getting them to come on board as well. But he did say he needed Marco specifically as well for this, that he was crucial to this. And then of course, one of the most exciting parts of this episode, Greed, the return of Greed, but the return of Greed proper, now that he has kind of defected, right? Again, he cut ties, and ultimately, you see in that still frame in the ending credit scene that there it is. That's his new crew. He's got 2 chimeras, and one of the most wholesome moments. It's a really quick moment, and it's actually happening in the background as Ed is trying to figure things out. He pulls out the earring, he's looking at it, but in the background you can hear and you can read the translation. Greed is asking them about the type of chimera they are, gorilla and lion, and you see, or you kind of read and listen to Greed's reaction to it. He's like, oh, that's cool, man. Like, that's kind of cool. So you see that he's almost immediately latching on to this newfound family once again. That's one of the themes of this episode, right? The lonely nature of being a homunculus. There's this really poignant line of dialogue, right? Even though I have all of these souls inside of me, I'm alone, aren't I? Right? Something along those lines, but oof, that is some moment. And again, that is certainly applicable to many of the other characters that do find themselves in that situation. People like Hohenheim, right? Really quite applicable. But yeah, it was lovely to see Greed back in there, to see Ling back in there, to see this new hybrid back in there, right? Because now it's not really about fighting for the control of that body, right? Now it's a little bit more, okay, yeah, they're kind of on the same page. Now that Greed has defected and now, you know, they've joined up. But the thing is, it's really quite special, isn't it, that this actually came together? You know, Greed and Ed together, and the Chimeras as well. But, you know, speaking of Ed accepting this, listen, the emotional growth is so clear to see here. Just the character development is so clear to see here. You see that he's beyond that, you know, adolescent pride and arrogance that he used to have. And, you know, there's a beautiful callback as well. And Greed actually remembers, right, that Ed essentially took something he said to him all that time ago to heart, right? That he is setting his pride aside, that he is able to set that pride aside now. Listen, I'm not sure if this is the case for anyone else, but to me, that felt like such a special moment to see Ed handle himself in that manner, to carry himself in that manner, right? So much emotional growth. I mean, the growth he has experienced as a person over the span of these story arcs, these episodes, it's just tremendous. It's lovely to see. It really makes you proud, doesn't it? Because you can always see the person he used to be in comparison to the person he is now. That's one of the upsides of a really long story. You know, he knew he could not let this moment slip for something as trivial as pride in that moment, right? He knew that the price that he has to pay here to get someone like Greed on their side is essentially letting go of his pride at that moment. It's a tiny price to pay. He understands that. You know, the thing I found so wholesome about this whole sequence, right, getting on board and getting Greed on board, is the self-deprecation. He is so accepting of all of his faults and his regrets. He just wants to learn. He wants to grow as a person, and he is growing as a person. He has grown as a person, and beyond all of that, physically as well. Really noticeable here. You'll get a lot of these shots. You know, you'll see his jawline. You know, unless I'm seeing things, to me, it felt like clearly, you know, they're drawing him in a manner that looks like, yeah, there's a bit of a shift physically, right? And he'll be standing there, and you see, okay, that is not the young Ed I remember seeing. But the exciting thing about this potential time skip is the fact that, you know, it could be a bit of an exciting and jarring moment the next time I see some of these young characters, some of these young people, not just Ed. And also, I love the dynamic that the new Chimera have with Ed, right? The thing is, it feels like they've been friends forever. They have that type of relationship already. Yes, there's certainly tough love, but, you know, you can only kind of give tough love to people you do come to care for and you are familiar with, right? There is that sense of familiarity. So I love that. I love that. And that's just Ed's nature, isn't it? He just brings people in. Like I said earlier, you know, beacon of hope. But, you know, let's not leave Al out. You know, just because he wasn't in this episode, Al and Ed, equal parts, they are this beacon of hope for a lot of people. They have been, and they'll continue to be. And then, you know, in terms of the Ling and Ed reunion, love that, of course. You know, a lot of levity through those two coming together again. And, you know, I just mentioned the Chimera and Ed. I legitimately laughed out loud. Like, it was so funny to see them just beat the shit out of him. I know it sounds crazy, but there was something so wholesome about that. Ed getting his ass kicked by those two. And the thing I really liked about Greed's awakening, it kind of continues from the last episode. You know, these glimpses, these memories coming back to him, is such a great touch, isn't it? And there's also that great moment at the hideout, right? The one that Gluttony destroyed. Bit of a misfire by Ed, you know, thinking that Al's going to be there, but it's not the biggest deal. You see that the moment Ed asked Greed to join us, right, rather than being out there on your own, it triggers him again. You know, he sees a flash of his late found family, right, the Chimera. Listen, it was clear that he wants to be a part of something, a collective, again, another found family. But, you know, there's a few stipulations. There's a few things required in order to make that happen. And of course, Ed understands, and he's like, I cannot let this situation slip or this opportunity slip. He makes it happen. Ed makes it happen. But then, speaking of flashes, let's go to one of the best fight sequences of this anime so far. I mean, you know, this anime just excels at fight sequences. You know, that fight sequence has such a fantastic flow to it. It really sold the speed of it, didn't it? You know, the Saga, ooh, Oh my goodness. It was beautiful, beautiful animation. The dynamic angles that are being used, right? The art direction, all of it. It's just beautiful, isn't it? And, I mentioned the sense of speed because, even though the actual back and forth might feel like it's long, it's actually not. It's a really quick fight. And, there's a few telltale signs in terms of how quick it really is, right? You kind of look at the sword up in the air. Things are happening so quickly that, they'll have like a back and forth, and then you see Bradley kind of, grabs it out of the air again. So yeah, it was beautiful. It really was. And yeah, you see his approach, Greed kind of goes head on, right? It's a bit different from Ling's approach, and that was more of a defensive approach because Ling realized, okay, no. This is not a dude you need to mess with right now. Let's kind of get out of here. So, Greed is on the offensive because he's actually really rattled in this moment, right? He's kind of losing his mind and he wants answers. He doesn't actually know all of it just yet, right? He's actually legitimately asking Bradley, how come you're there? How come you're in these memories? What exactly did you do to these people that I care for, right? But, he maintained that facade, I suppose. He kept calling him Bradley. Unless, of course, he actually doesn't know that King Bradley is Wrath. Because, I just kind of assumed he's doing it for, Mrs. Bradley. He doesn't want to blow his cover, perhaps. Just let me know in the comments. Maybe I'm mixing it up. But the thing is, you can see a bit of an improvement this time. Yes, he was still outmatched, and he had to, retreat and get out of there quick, but yeah, you could tell, maybe it is because of, him being in Ling's body now. And of course, Ling is quite the formidable fighter himself. So that certainly made a difference, I think. But let's shift the focus to another fight, a fight that was a bit more laid back in comparison to this fight, at least. The two Armstrong siblings going at it, though, Alex was quite reluctant about this all. But yeah, you see it's quite the deliberate approach by Olivier to get the parents out of there. So, there's nothing being held above her head, essentially. Alex essentially put it together as well. Though it was clear, right? The moment she sat down, she starts imploring them to, move on. Let me be the head of this family now. You go and have a fun time. Just get out of here. And they do. They go to Jing. They end up going to Jing, but someone that was meant to be going to Jing had a U-turn, right? I'll get to May in a bit. Listen, I had a feeling that's not the conclusion to her arc. It just didn't feel like the natural conclusion to that arc. So I'm not surprised that, she's coming back into the fold, but it's not exciting either because, she's being manipulated. This was one of my concerns about giving them this specimen, right? And unfortunately, yeah, it kind of backfires. So ultimately, maybe it wasn't the best plan. So yeah, she's heading back to Central, and Envy is hoping to come across a Philosopher's Stone. And yeah, to me, it feels like maybe I'll see her or them once again in that form. But of course, for that to happen, they're going to need a Philosopher's Stone. If only I had a stone, they said. So, in terms of stones, Kimberly has one, Ed and the Chimera have one as well. But I'm not sure if they're going to run into them anytime soon. Maybe it can trick, maybe they can trick May into Central, into Underground. But, May's been there before, so it's not going to be easy to trick her into going down there again. So let's see how it all plays out. Surely something is going to come out of this in terms of Envy escaping and kind of regaining that form potentially. But yeah, I'm a little bit afraid for May. Listen, she is young. She is a little bit naive. But also, it's not as simple as just being manipulated. You see the kindness of the people of Uswell. And that was the town from Yoki's backstory, right? That he was taxing them. And it was really quite rough for a lot of them. So, the fact that they are so kind, so open to helping out this young child, and so open to pitch in, be it a spare room, be it some rations, be it a bath, to kind of continue that circle of kindness, right? That essentially Ed was able to initiate back then, right? By tricking Yoki. But yeah, let me kind of go back and finish my point about the fight, the Armstrong fight. Listen, you know, I'm not sure if Alex is actually going all out. To me, it felt like it's not something he can actually do. He could never actually try to hurt his sister. That's just not in his nature, right? Yeah, you know, there's a bit of a scuffle, but you see really quickly that he's like, nah, okay, let's kind of, you know, let's end this. But she drags him in a few times. You know, she's got him in a headlock as well. But, you know, she had the sword out, but you don't see any cuts. So it's not as if she was legitimately trying to hurt her brother either, because she can tell just how much she can take, right? So she can dish it out. But she also knows, you know, of course, her brother's tough. He can take a lot of this punishment that she's kind of dishing out. But yeah, once again, it's a case of tough love, right? I do think she cares about Alex. Of course she does, but it's a different approach that she takes. You know, I love that little smirk as Alex kind of, you know, tells her her plan and kind of figures it out and puts it together. I love that moment. And, you know, they certainly did a number, or at least Olivier did a number on that mansion. Hell, they have the money. They've got the money to fix it up, I suppose. But, you know, the thing that was really noticeable here is that she claims that this is her mansion now. So having that mansion is important to her or her plans, perhaps. Let's see how that plays out. But yeah, I think that might be it for this one, folks. Fantastic episode. Really fantastic episode. Really enjoyed that. And I'm really quite excited for the next one, especially given some of the setup here, right? In the ending credit scene. And then, you know, right before the credits roll, all of that fantastic setup. Some of the best setup of the entire series, actually. Right then, if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you are interested in the next few episodes right now, or perhaps even timer-based full length, consider checking out the Patreon page and supporting the channel, perhaps. You know, the links are in the description and the pinned comments, also links to social media, if that's your thing. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me, folks, and thank you for your time, because time is precious. It really is. And I do hope to see you again soon for episode 46. Until then, take it easy.